With the version 6.3 livestream now over and Columbina's official kit finally revealed after multiple changes, it's time to break down everything we know. Let's start with her kit. Colombina is a Hydro Catalyst user who scales primarily from HP. Her normal attacks deal Hydro damage and her charged attacks consume stamina to deal Hydro damage as well. However, this changes whenever she has Verdant Dew stacks. When Verdant Dew is active, Colombina consumes 1 stack per charged attack. In exchange, she no longer consumes stamina and instead deals 3 instances of Lunar Bloom damage. Her elemental skill summons a gravity ripple that deals Hydro damage. Whenever your team triggers a lunar reaction, Colombina gains additional gravity points, stacking up to a maximum of 60. Once this limit is reached, the skill unleashes a powerful lunar effect based on the most frequently triggered lunar reaction. For example, if you play her with Flynn's and Ineffa, it will trigger Lunar Charge damage. If you play her with Zebai, it will instead trigger Lunar Crystallise damage. Her elemental burst is where things really get insane. Colombina deals a small instance of damage and creates a lunar domain that provides a 40% lunar damage bonus to the entire team. From her passive, she also increases the base lunar damage of the whole party by up to 7%. This bonus scales from her HP, and to reach the full 7% amplification, she needs a total of 35,000 HP. This is very achievable through HP percent artifacts or weapons, which we'll cover in the build section. She also provides several reaction-specific bonuses. Whenever Lunar Charge is triggered, there's a 33% chance to deal an additional instance of damage. When Lunar Bloom is triggered, Colombina grants extra Verdant Dew stacks, increasing the total count from 3 up to 6, which is massive for Bloom-based teams. For Lunar Crystallise, she again provides a 33% chance for an additional hit. On top of all of this, Colombina gains 15% crit rate for herself, further boosting her personal damage. Now let's talk about how to build her. For artifacts, her best-in-slot set is the new Morning Star and Moon set, which provides elemental mastery and lunar damage bonuses. However, you should only run this if another teammate is already holding the Silken Moon set, such as Lauma or Ino. If no one else is using Silken Moon, it is always recommended to put Colombina on Silken Moon instead. For substats, your main goal is reaching 35,000 HP alongside energy recharge in the range of 160 to 180%. If you're running double Hydro, 160% ER is usually enough. With only 1 Hydro unit, you should aim closer to 180% or higher. This requirement can drop slightly if you're using Prototype Amber or Favonius weapons. All of these calculations come directly from Theory Crafters, and I'll show them on screen. For weapons, her signature weapon is obviously her best in slot, providing crit stats, extra HP, energy, and strong damage bonuses from its passive. For free-to-play options, Prototype Amber and Favonius weapons work perfectly fine. Just keep in mind that Colombina ascends with crit rate and also gains an additional 15% crit rate from her passive, so using a crit rate weapon can easily lead to overcapping. Now let's talk about the teams most of you are here for. Colombina has 2 main archetypes. The first is as an on-field DPS in Dendro-based teams. These include Bloom, Hyperbloom, and Burgeon setups, where she consumes Verdant Dew stacks through charged attacks. Currently, her strongest on-field team is Hyperbloom with Ineffa, Lauma, and Nahida, which is also the strongest Hyperbloom team in the game right now. If you don't have Ineffa, you can replace her with Kuki, but you should always aim to maintain Ascendant Gleam for maximum buffs. She can also be played in Burgeon teams by replacing Ineffa with Durin, which is extremely strong as well. Nilu Bloom is another option where Colombina can again function as the on-field DPS. That said, I do not recommend playing Colombina as a main DPS in Lunar Charge or Lunar Crystallise teams, since her charged attack multipliers are not strong enough to justify that role. Her second archetype, and arguably her most important one, is as an off-field sub-DPS. This is where Colombina truly shines. She has an insane number of teams with Electro, Geo, and Dendro units, thanks to her ability to trigger lunar reactions. Her strongest teams are currently with Nod Cry DPS characters. She is the single best support for Zabai, making her incredibly valuable for anyone planning to pull him. That team usually looks like Zabai, Columbina, Aluga, and a flexible fourth slot such as Zhongli, Goru, or Shalonen. She's also very strong with both Flynn's and Nefer. While she may not be their absolute best in slot support, since Flynn still prefers Ineffa and Nefer prefers Lauma, Colombina alone is more than strong enough to clear endgame content like Spiral Abyss. She does not trigger lunar reactions with Pyro or Cryo DPS characters, so she is less effective there. You can still run her in teams like Overvape with Ineffa for Arlecchino, or even alongside Mavuika, but she does not provide direct lunar buffs to them. Outside of Nod Cry characters, Colombina works incredibly well with Geo, Dendro, and Electro units. She's currently the best Geo support available for older Geo DPS characters like Navia, making them viable again in endgame content. She also pairs extremely well with Raiden, Alhaitham, Clorinde, and Varesa, giving all of them access to lunar reactions and massively boosting team damage. Finally, let's talk about her pull value. Colombina is an incredibly strong character who completely reshapes the meta. It pushes the damage ceiling much higher than it previously was. Colombina paired with Ineffa allows almost any DPS to cross the 100,000 DPS mark, which alone shows how broken she is. You can run her with Ineffa alongside nearly any older DPS, and thanks to her massive buffs and off-field damage, she makes those characters viable again. In my opinion, Colombina is a must-pull for almost every account. Her overall impact is comparable to what Mavuika brought to the game at her release. For players considering vertical investment, it's important to understand that Colombina is primarily a support. Her C1 and R1 do not provide massive damage spikes. Both are only around 10% stronger than her C0, R0 baseline. If you are planning to invest vertically, I recommend aiming for C2 Colombina and skipping her weapon entirely. In most scenarios, you will be running her with prototype Amber, since she can function as a secondary healer for the team. This works especially well because she scales with HP, and you will already be stacking a large amount of HP through artifacts and double hydro teammates. For players interested in using Colombina as a main DPS, especially outside of Dendro-based teams, she is generally not optimal. You will almost always deal more damage by using a dedicated on-field DPS instead. That said, at higher constellations, she does improve significantly, and she remains an excellent on-field driver in Hyperbloom teams, as discussed earlier. Now, for those who are confused about whether to pull Colombina or instead go for dedicated supports for Flints and Nefer in the form of Ineffa and Lauma, here's the simple answer. If your goal is to maximize a specific DPS, then Ineffa is the better option for Electro DPS units, and Lauma is the better option for Dendro DPS units. They are currently the best dedicated Electro and Dendro supports you can give those characters. However, Colombina performs far better when you look at overall account value. She fits into many more teams, works across multiple archetypes, and provides value beyond just one specific DPS. We've already made multiple videos covering this in more detail, so make sure to check those out if you want a deeper breakdown.